Being stuck between a rock and a hard place is bad enough. Now, imagine if they were monsters instead. Hey everyone! Scylla and Charybdis are two of the most famous ancient Greek monsters, two halves of one horrible situation, placing sailors in a position where they have to choose which they'd rather be eaten by. Fun material for speculative evolution, so let's see how that could work. Please like, hype and subscribe to help our video sail these waters, or watch some more mythology videos. And now, without further ado, let's get started! The seas have long been a source of fascination and horror to humans. Long before we took to the skies, these vast expanses of water were the frontier that separated us from the unknown. And its guardians, the beings that inhabit it, have been more than enough to bring untold amounts of legends into our world. Let us meet the Scylla. Tetraphotis polycephala, closely related to myopsid squids, are found all across the Mediterranean, with some of the most widely reported and sensationalized sightings coming from southern Italy. These enormous mollusks will spend most of their waking time above water, hanging on the rocks as if basking in the sun, waiting for prey to approach. Their powerful arms will help them hold onto the rocky terrain, and their mantle, no longer needed to give them a streamlined shape while swimming, has developed specialized fins that embrace the rock, applying suction on the substrate to help them cling more firmly. They will constantly survey the water from this higher position, aided by their very powerful eyes, which are held up by a muscular stalk, thus giving them a greater vantage point. Once adequate prey passes by, the Scylla will quickly strike with its many hooked tentacles, lifting its prey up to its beak to be torn apart. This predator will adapt to whatever prey is available. If it's one large animal, such as the Leviathan, the Scylla will ensnare it using all of its tentacles, the sharp hooks wounding and bleeding it in a matter of minutes. If it is, instead, a school of smaller animals, it will then grab one using each of its tentacles, securing in both cases a large food source. This is possible thanks to the fact that, similar to octopuses, the Scylla has a massive amount of neurons and accessory nervous systems in each of its tentacles, and so each one has the ability to sense and react to its surroundings independently, doing quick adjustments based on their mechanoreceptors to catch prey on their own. When dealing with larger prey, the Scylla will retract their eye stalk to prevent prey from harming them as they struggle, and its hard, leathery mantle will protect its internal organs from harm. Mighty predators as they are, the Scylla, as any animal, can themselves be targeted by other predators such as the Gojira or the Cetus, or also larger members of their own species. When this happens, they will use their siphon to expel air in quick bursts, producing a loud noise in an attempt to drive away the other animal. This noise has been likened by many to the yelping of dogs, and usually does a very good job of confusing and scaring off other animals. Even if this doesn't work, fights between two Scylla are rarely fatal, but attacks by other predators carry a much higher risk. Fortunately, the Scylla has the advantage of range given by its long arms. These have evolved a series of patterns that resemble eyes, making each arm appear to be the head of another animal. Attacking predators may be distracted by these arms, focusing their attention and bites on these false heads instead of the vital organs of the Scylla. For a long time, the reproductive habits of these magnificent animals were not understood, as even long-term observation led to zero reports of mating in these organisms. Added to this, dissection of all known members of the species have revealed them to be female, further deepening this mystery. It wasn't until modern times that the male of the species was found, an animal that had long been believed to belong to a different species, the glaucous squid. This male is much smaller than the female, barely reaching a meter in length, and presents a much brighter coloration that acts as a warning against predators. They may lack the formidable size and deadly weapons of the female, but this is very easily offset by the presence of deadly toxins in their skin. This dimorphism would be enough to obfuscate matters, but even then, there is the mystery of the lack of mating behavior. The reason why this happened is simple. The glaucous squid was believed to be a parasite, biting on the Scylla and fusing into its flesh, eventually becoming little more than a mantle and a couple of vestigial eyes connected to its host circulatory system. This is, indeed, part of the truth, but dissection of symbiotic males would reveal that they were not only extracting blood, but at the same time pumping their gametes into the female, allowing for the production of offspring at an extremely low energetic cost. While this relationship may seem out of science fiction, it is already known to exist in nature, in animals such as anglerfish. Contrasting with the titanic females, larvae will begin their life cycle as small as those of any other mollusk. Most will not survive until adulthood, but those that do must feed constantly on zooplankton, eventually reaching the size of a male. While still relatively small as far as many predators are concerned, these subadults are extremely fast and nimble, able to escape the jaws of most sea-dwelling carnivores. The fins that protrude from their mantle at this stage are wide and flowy, creating a distraction that protects their internal organs, as most predators will be more likely to take a bite out of these fins than out of the mantle itself. These fins were also a source of great fascination to ancient people in the area, who likened their appearance to the dress of a noble woman. Fascinating as it is, the Scylla would have not gained the fame it has in modern times were it not for the peculiar symbiosis it has formed with another organism, the Charybdis. Elinostoma thalassophaga is an enormous species of tunicate, which has developed a very muscular inner body wall that will, in conjunction with their multitudes of cilia, create a current of water that drives potential prey towards its mouth. Despite the size of a Charybdis, this will hardly be enough to absorb active swimmers, including most fish and aquatic mammals in the area. That's why, upon detecting the presence of an animal in this current through its mechanoreceptors, the Charybdis will suddenly open its mouth, creating a vacuum that will pull any prey into its digestive net, made of a sticky mucus secretion, where they will be digested. Due to its large size, this process will be very energetically taxing, meaning a Charybdis cannot afford to do it constantly, only beginning a feeding cycle whenever it detects large prey. This behavior acting as a combination of ambush predatory tunicates and filter feeding ones, a highly effective method at larger sizes. Scyllas nearing adulthood will take advantage of the Charybdis feeding method by searching for an appropriate hunting place near one of these tunicates, usually near a narrow channel. Animals, or since the appearance of humans, boats passing through this area will be trapped in the water current. If they swim away from the maw of the Charybdis, they will be snatched by the Scylla, but if they stay out of the reach of the latter, they will be devoured by the former. This method, as may be imagined, heavily increases the success of both individuals, and having to decide between approaching one or the other has cost the lives of countless sailors, not to mention entire ships and crews who believed they could outmaneuver both at once. And that's it for speculative biology look into Scylla and Charybdis. With these two being among the most famous and well-defined of classic monsters, I found it fun how much had to be done to adapt them into our style. Our Scylla, for example, was designed based on many different descriptions and depictions, with its varying number of dog heads and legs being adapted into arms and tentacles adapted to hold onto rocks and catch prey. The parasitic males, which could be present in varying quantities from female to female, also helped explain the different amounts of limbs and heads, referencing at the same time the works of Heraclitus Paradoxographus, who rationalized the heads as being the lovers of a human Scylla. The male's name, Glaucus, also referenced Scylla's unwanted suitor from the stories. As for the eye stalk, it worked for representing the human part coming out of the monster, common in many depictions, in itself a result of Scylla having once been a nymph before becoming a monster, this humanoid form also being referenced in their pre-adult form. Charybdis, for its part, was said to swallow and vomit the sea itself 3 times a day, which I figured would be a rather disadvantageous thing. Done without stimuli to respond to, it would have just been a waste of energy for any living being, and done at regular intervals would have made it predictable for prey and easy to avoid. Of course, the monster Charybdis was most likely a whirlpool, with which this behavior would have been consistent. In fact, there is a whirlpool in the place where Charybdis was said to have resided, the Strait of Messina, opposite a rock often associated with Scylla. So with that in mind, when transforming Charybdis into a living being, the frequency of its feeding had to be adjusted, but it was just for the sake of biological plausibility, so I feel it was for the better. I hope you guys enjoyed this dive back into the world of classical mythology. And as always, here's a thank you to everyone who wanted to see this episode. And also, thank you to our researchers and research associates who support us through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Remember, you too can support our channel by joining in, and you'll get some cool extras like seeing all of our creatures and videos ahead of time and helping mold them into shape over on our exclusive Patreon Discord. Or you can also like, subscribe, or write a comment telling me any type of creature you would like me to give the Spec Evo treatment in the show. Any of those really help the channel a lot. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time on the Speculative Wildlife Research Center.